This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady. Hey, y'all. Welcome to the show. No matter where you are around the world, thank you for joining us. So, if you need help with your personal finances, you're struggling, you're worried, you're stressed out, and you want to go on vacation, but you are so stressed because you got the money, I'm your guy. Contact me today at dakotagrady.com. And also, tax season is over, but for us people who do taxes, the struggle continues. And people who file extensions, we still do the taxes. So if you haven't filed your taxes yet, there's still time. And you may pay a penalty, but you need to file your taxes. But if you get a refund, you don't have to worry about paying a penalty. But if you don't get a refund, you owe it in the past, just make sure you know that you're gonna pay a penalty. But if you need help with your taxes, contact me today at dakotagrady.com. Contact me today at dakotagrady.com. So today's guest is Miss Tracy Fleming. She is a pastor, a wife, I guess a Mimi, right?
A mom.
And she's also an entrepreneur as well. So I know Tracy from it was eventually like an indirect relationship. I say I was on the radio, and a friend of ours heard me on the radio, and then she connected me with Tracy and Sandra. So here we are. So Tracy, without further ado, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Dakota. What a great opportunity it is to come and share just a few moments with you. First, I want to say thank you for all that you contribute to the accounting world, to the social media platform where you make light of and keep us laughing, even with everyday situations where we are blundering and making some major mistakes, even with our finances. But I'll just kind of reintroduce myself. Dakota did a great job. I am Tracy Fleming. I don't like to say that I wear many hats. I believe that what I do kind of emerge into one thing about who I am. So I am a pastor in Easley, South Carolina. I am a mom and I am a Mimi as well. The Mimi, I'll let you guys figure out what that is. I am a wife. And yes, I am an entrepreneur, which I have been for many years. I am a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor with QuickBooks, which is an automated accounting software. And I have been for maybe 15, 20 years when people was not even thinking about QuickBooks. I got started because I was newly appointed to an administration position at church. And that administration position involved getting their financial reports and reporting in order. And I did some research and I found out that QuickBooks was a great way to go. So I started with my local church and it just kind of moved and expanded from there. I have extensive background in credit and finance and accounting. So I've always been in that side of the business, but I left Ford on a nice severance package and stayed at home for a year and decided to do my own thing. And I have not looked back. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about me.
Wow. So I think when I first met you, I was like, well, how did you go from being a pastor to doing accounting? Like, talk about that story right there.
Okay, so in fact, in May, I'll be celebrating 14 years of pastoralship. I have been in ministry, and my faith is my foundation. I've been in church literally all of my life. That's kind of the joke about the baby sister. Everybody else was doing everything else, but I was in church. I love God. He is the source of my everything, and without him, I would be nothing. So that kind of settles that part for me. Back in 2007, I started a women's group called Powerful Living Women's Ministry. And we would meet once every fourth Friday of the month, and we would just kind of do that. We would empower women. We would have guest speakers in from the community. Everything from teaching women everything, how to shop for an insurance policy to how to start your own business. And, we would apply the word and look at it from a biblical base. And I had a staff of about 10 10 women at that time. And I knew that God was calling me to lead his people, to shepherd his people. I knew without a doubt. I just didn't know all of the details about it. But that women's ministry was just kind of a natural progression from the women's ministry. And I actually planted a church in 2009. And
Mm.
14 years later, this is where God has really blessed us. We purchased property out in Easily, beautiful property there, and God is growing the ministry, and God is growing me. So that's kind of the progression. Along the way, when you plant a church, you don't walk into a ministry or church where you got a $500,000 budget. You kind of have to fundraise and come up with ideas how to raise that money. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to spend more time doing ministry and less time clocking in on somebody's clock. So I began praying, asking God, and I already had the tools and the resources. I just didn't realize I had them. But little did I know that what I was already doing could actually help supplement my income from the church. So I would be my own boss. I could free my time up so that I could give more time to ministry. It was just the small things for me. If someone passed away, I wanted to be able to go when I wanted to go to that home and show my face to that family. If a child was having problems in school and the parent needed some moral or physical support to go speak with the officials at the school, I didn't want to have to ask my boss, can I go? I wanted to be able to be there for the people that God had given me to shepherd. So that was my motivation behind I need to supplement my income. I can't afford not to work because I still needed to prepare for retirement at some day. I still had my portion of the that I needed to help with in our home. So, and this is what I did. I started with, and I'm gonna call her name on here, Miss Brenda Ligon, in Lawrence, South Carolina. She owns a staffing agency and a drug testing service, Dakota. And I started with her. I was a mobile QuickBooks at Pro Advisor, which means I would drive wherever. I've had clients in Spartanburg, Inman, Lawrence. But of course, that limits you. You can only drive so far. You can only do so many clients in a certain amount of time. So, but little did I know that would just, during COVID, it would just turn all the way around. I had gotten to a point to where I was tired of driving and going and doing, and I was kind of settling down. And I met this man in Greenville named John Safiris. He was an enrolled agent, and I went to work with him because I was just tired of driving and tired of that road a little bit. So I kind of settled down with him a little bit.
Wow, what a story. So you met John Safiris and eventually passed away back in February of what, 2021,
2021, 22,
right?
23. Yes, 21. Yes.
So, and at that point, you had a new business. Talk about that, getting a new business or opportunity, how that fell in
Oh,
your lap.
yeah, Dakota, because I was still working with Safiris and I still had clients outside of him. I think at that time I um, had maybe 3 or 4 other clients outside of him, and he worked with me, and we just kind of worked my schedule. And Mr. Safiris and I had talked briefly about perhaps me purchasing or taking over his business. He had bookkeeping and tax. He had bookkeeping and tax. He was 83 when I first met him. He had been an enrolled agent for 50 plus years, a very long time. He
Mhm.
had a very good book of business. I came on with him in April. The year before, in December, he had just sent a mass letter out to a lot of his clients, basically telling them, I can't do it anymore. You got to find your new accountant. So by the time I got to him, his bookkeeping business was down to about 12 clients, and his tax business was down to about 60, 65 clients. I went in originally only on the bookkeeping side. I got it cleaned up. A lot of it was behind. It was a lot of hard work. Unfortunately, COVID hit. It stopped me from going into folks' offices because they closed. And so I was solely working with Mr. Safiris. And I always say that you have to be open to what God has planned, because I never, ever would have went to work for this man at the rate that he was paying me. But it was something about meeting him. It was something about when I went to speak with him on a Saturday at 11 o'clock. It was a mutual friend that does computer work. And that mutual friend said, you need to talk with one of my friends. And he gave me a reference, and he left his office, came by my office and said, I told John Safiris to call you. He's going to be calling you. Sure enough, Mr. Safiris called. I went in and met him. We shook hands. And that Monday, I was in his office. And no story, it was a lot of work. It was a mess. There was sales and use taxes that were late, that was continuously late. He was old school, paper and pencil. Nothing was automated. So I cleaned it up. It took me probably about 9 months to clean up and to challenge a lot of late fees, but somehow I did. The one thing I asked Mr. Safiris to do, because at one point in my career, I thought about doing just a payroll service. I wanted to do just payroll. And I said, I'm not up to par with a lot of the rules and a lot of things that go with payroll. I said, if you will teach me all of that, I'll come to work for you at this rate, this many hours a week. And he said, I promise you, I'll teach you. I'll teach you. And he stuck to his word, and he did just that. So I can do all of the payroll stuff by hand, because that's how he taught me. And then eventually I automated it. And he got sick, and I caught COVID first. He caught it second, from a client that came in not to even see us, but to see someone else in the office next to us, stopped by and spoke with Mr. Safiris because they knew him. On my birthday, I went home. I was sick, December the 10th. I was really sick, and I knew I had COVID. And before I could get back in the office, he called and said, I'm sick, Tracy. I've got COVID. And that was December the 12th. And I never heard from him again. Unfortunately, in February of the next year, he passed after COVID complications. His family, we pulled together, and we were able to make it through tax season in 21. And after the tax season, I basically told them, we had talked about it a little bit, but there was so much going on. But I remember May 1st, I said, I'm going to open up my own office. I'm not going to, you guys tell me what you want to do. And of course, they wanted to sell. They wanted to sell the book of business together, because I only wanted to purchase the bookkeeping. I had never really, I could do taxes, but that wasn't my thing. I was not set up as a e-filer, etc. But they wanted to sell the book of business together. We came up with a plan, and I decided to buy the whole book. Although the tax business was much smaller than the bookkeeping business. The bookkeeping business I could tell that was his meat and potatoes, and it kept things going on a monthly basis. And so we worked a phenomenal deal where I did not have to pay anything down. I made a monthly stipend. We came up with an agreement how much that book of business, the bookkeeping business was, and divided that over 3 years, and that's what I paid every month. So, and I am happy to say that in May, I will be done. It will be 3 years, and I will be done. Yay! I'm so excited to have that debt behind me. So that's a little bit how I got with Mr. Safiris. Excuse me, I'm sorry. That's a little bit of how I got with Mr. Safiris. And you want to ask some more questions? I'll let you ask some questions.
What a story right there. What a story. I mean, talk about how important it is for succession planning.
Well, Dakota, that is very important. And sadly to say, especially in our community, in our churches, in this day and time, there's not enough of that. Absolutely. So I am succession planning really in two places, in ministry at the church, because I say to my husband and to my children all the time, I do not want to be 70, 75 years old, dragging myself to a pulpit to preach because I have to. And I told even the staff at the church is that there are other things that I would like to do in ministry other than be confined to pulpit ministry. I want to go back to school. I want to write Christian curriculum. I want to travel presenting that curriculum. So I am looking and searching, and I'm praying, God, who's next? Because I know that there's more for that ministry, and that with someone else at the helm, that God's going to do even greater things. Because I am the owner of this business, it does allow me a unique opportunity to hire and to bring those in that I feel are a good fit. And currently, my granddaughter is working for me. She's in school and she works part-time here. She has gotten her QuickBooks certification, and I do want to leave a legacy. When I phase out of the scene on the ministry side and the work side, I don't want my businesses and the work that I've done to just collapse. All of the air go out of it. And so I'm training. I've recently presented my children with the opportunity to come and to start learning the business for minimal hours. Of course, it's a sacrifice. I can't pay them what they make on their regular jobs. So it would be a sacrifice. And my youngest son, I was very surprised. In fact, oops, thing fell down. Sorry about that. In fact, my youngest son started yesterday coming in to learn the business. He's going to start with QuickBooks, not the tax part. He's going to start with QuickBooks, just kind of learning that about 10 to 12 hours a week. So that is so pleasing to me, is that one day that I can give them the opportunity that I was given to say, hey, this is what this book of business is worth. This is how I want you to pay me for it. So I don't want it to be all gone when I decide to leave. So
That's amazing, because you have two generations after you who you're raising up, your
yes,
son and your granddaughter. That's awesome.
and yes. So
Wow. So what have been some of the challenges of you buying a book of business? I mean, talk about that.
is that you inherit everybody else's terrible habits. When you get business for yourself, you get to train them from day one how you want them to respond, what you want them to do. Unfortunately, when you purchase a book of business, whatever bad habits the prior accountant allowed and implemented, you get all of that. I've had this book of business now almost 3 years, and I immediately went from a paper and pencil and a data entry accounting system to QuickBooks. And with that came increase in fees. So we had to increase their fees that they paid to me. And it was a challenge. I had 3 clients to leave the book of business because they didn't want to pay that. One client I was just not able to serve. It was a large nonprofit, and I gave them to someone else. So there was some losses in the beginning, but I felt, Dakota, that it was better to lose that now than to get all the way down the road. And I was not able to service that customer. It was constant fees, and their books are messed up. They got penalties and entries from the different state and federal agencies. So there are definitely some challenges. You inherit all of it, not just the money, not just the clients, but all of the bad habits as well.
So you and our partner, you and Senator graciously brought me in to help you out for one season, and it was challenging as well. But talk about being able to collaborate with people in the industry, because I think that's something that people, I guess, are hesitant to do because they feel like they're competitors, but it's like there's no money out there for all of us to win.
I am so glad that you talked about that. I'm so glad because I am of the mindset in my earlier days when I was in sales and building my reputation and building my brand, networking was one of my go-tos. I felt that at that time, networking, I did a lot of it. Most of my days were filled with networking. I believe in networking. I know it works. I was in the B&I group for 7, 8 years as a life specialist with Allstate. I was the president. I was the education coordinator, so many aspects. And I will say I made a lot of money, a lot of sales being a part of that networking group and others as well. So number one, it's important. It is important. I think that you get great ideas. You gain strength from other folks, especially by collaborating. And you know, two brains are always better than one. And I think that all of us need that trusted person or team that we can go to when there are issues in our own office, or if you're just not sure about a client or how to deal with something. Collaboration in this day, I think, is the way to go. I believe that we need one another. And I also believe that there's enough money out there for everybody to make. And you know, I'm the first to say, I can't handle this, or this is not my expertise here. You can take it. If I can't do it, if I can't, one of the things I think that set our firm apart, maybe from other firms, is that I will forego some money and some fees if I'm not able to service you. I would rather keep you as a good client slash customer, and you will continue to refer than to continue to try to service you. And I'm not competent in order to do that. So, you know, you just mess up so many things. In fact, this tax season, a very good client. He has six businesses and growing. I referred him out to a CPA for his taxes this year because I knew that it was just a little bit more than I had the time to delve into and to do it. And I believe that he would be, and I know that he's already referred me someone, a huge bookkeeping client. So I'm ecstatic about that. But I know that someone else could service him better in that area.
I agree. I mean, because I had a big client too, and I'm glad it's gone because it was so big. I thought I could handle it, but it's like, mm-mm. And now I know my limit with bookkeeping. It's like, this was what I can handle. If I can't handle it, I'll refer it out to somebody else because I don't want to be,
Right.
like, again, be like trying to struggle to get things done and you struggling to meet deadlines. I got time for that.
I agree, Dakota, and I would prefer to take a client by the hand, so to speak, and sit them in front of someone that I know and I trust, than for them to leave the office not satisfied and they're out there trying to look for someone, or and they get a worse experience. And if they do, they're going to always refer back to the person where they started. Well, I had to leave because Tracy didn't know what she was doing. So I prefer to put you in a place with people that I know and that I trust. So
True. So, real quick, give us some things that 2 tips that you can leave the audience that they can do, whether it's personal, business. Thank you for your time, Tracy, and you got the floor.
what did you say? Give some tips.
Yeah, just anything, I mean, that you want to leave with the audience, anything helpful, whether it's
Um,
business, no, you got the floor.
when I purchased, I ended up purchasing a second book of business. And I had a good friend to tell me this. He said that I've seen wealth transfer, but when you transfer a business or a book of business from one sector of life, from one nationality of life, from one group of people to a totally different group, that's true wealth transfer. And I was so pleased that God opened the door to allow me to be a part of that. And I like to say to our entrepreneurs, keep pushing, be open to new ideas. Don't get stuck in a rut just saying, oh, this is all I want to do. This is all, because if I had done that, I would have missed great opportunities, great opportunities. So stay open, keep pushing, keep grinding. Is that I know that your plan, if you work your plan, it will come to pass. Thank you so much, Dakota, for having me.
Hey, Tracy. Tracy, how can people find out about you online?
You can go to simply Tracy Fleming on Facebook, QuickBooks Pro Accountant on Instagram. Our website is www.businessandsuchaccounting.com. And we have an office in downtown Greenville, 600 East North Street.
All right. Thank you for your time, Tracy.
Thank you, Dakota.
This is the Your Money Hour podcast.